He had millions in the bank, awards lining his office walls, and every luxury money could buy. But on Christmas Eve, he stared at an empty table, whispering to himself, "What's the point of having everything, when there's no one to share it with?" And just when he thought this Christmas would be as lonely as every year before, a broken bar and knock on his door changed everything. Ethan Red was the kind of man people admired and envied at the same time. At only 38, he was the CEO of one of the most successful tech companies in the country. His name was printed in magazines, his face on business covers, and his achievements celebrated across the globe. But behind the perfectly tailored suits and the confident smile lay a truth he never spoke of. He was painfully alone. Every Christmas, Ethan returned to his massive penthouse overlooking the glittering city lights. He used to spend the holidays with his parents, but after their tragic passing 5 years ago, the house felt like a museum of memories he couldn't touch. His friends were either married or too busy living their own lives, so he drowned the silence with work, convincing himself that success could replace love. But that night, the city was glowing with warmth, the families laughing, couples exchanging gifts, children singing carols, and yet Ethan sat in his office with only the sound of rain tapping on the windows. He told his assistant to cancel all meetings and went home early. For the first time in years, he wanted to feel something real. He stopped by a small bakery near his building. The place smelled of cinnamon and sugar, the air alive with laughter. Behind the counter stood a young woman named Lily, who looked exhausted but wore a smile that could light up the coldest night. She was busy packing boxes for customers, but when Ethan walked in, she greeted him warmly. "Good evening, sir. We're almost closing, but I can still get you something sweet for Christmas," she said, brushing flour off her hands. Ethan smiled faintly. "Do you have anything left for someone spending Christmas alone?" Her hands froze for a moment. She looked at him, then at the clock. It was almost midnight. "Actually, a broken bar," she said softly. "We have one last slice of Christmas cake. I was saving it for myself." "But a broken bar?" She hesitated. "You look like you might need it more." Ethan chuckled. "I can't take your cake. It's just cake," she said, "but it tastes better when shared." Her words struck something deep inside him. Maybe it was the way she said it, or the way her eyes held warmth without pity. He accepted the slice, paid double for it, and as she handed it to him, she asked gently, "Are you sure you'll be okay tonight?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I've been okay for a long time." But she saw through his lie. Moments later, as she locked the shop, the snow began to fall harder. Lily shivered in her thin jacket. Ethan, sitting in his car nearby, saw her struggling to walk in the storm. Without thinking, he stepped out and offered her a ride. "No, it's okay," she said at first. "I live close." But the wind howled, and the streets grew empty. Finally, she nodded. Just this once. The car ride was quiet at first, filled with the soft hum of Christmas music. She asked him about his plans for the night. He gave a half smile. "Work, maybe some whiskey." "You?" "Me? Just me in my little apartment. My sister's in another city. I usually spend Christmas watching old movies." When they reached her building, she hesitated before getting out. She looked at him, his face illuminated by the dashboard light. He looked powerful yet so lonely. Then she said the words that changed everything. "Can you stay for just one night?" "Not for me." "Broken bar for yourself. It's Christmas. You shouldn't be alone." Ethan was speechless. No one had spoken to him like that in years. No one had cared enough to. He almost refused it, but something in her tone, in her kindness, broke through the walls he'd built. So, he agreed. "Just one night," he said quietly. Inside her small apartment, The space was humble but warm with twinkling fairy lights, a tiny Christmas tree, and the smell of cocoa. Lily handed him a mug and laughed when he awkwardly held it like it was a foreign object. "You really don't do this often, do you?" she teased. He smiled, genuinely this time. "I guess I forgot what Christmas feels like." They talked for hours, about dreams, family, regrets. Lily shared how she'd been struggling to keep the bakery alive after her father's passing. Ethan listened, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: a connection. When midnight came, they sat quietly by the window, watching the snowfall. Lily softly began to sing a Christmas song, her voice trembling but beautiful. Ethan found himself closing his eyes, letting the moment sink in. For the first time in years, the ache in his heart felt lighter. The night stretched on, filled with laughter, small stories, and quiet comfort. Ethan forgot about his mansion, his wealth, his title. In that tiny apartment, surrounded by warmth and sincerity, he felt human again. Morning came too soon. Lily was still asleep on the couch when Ethan quietly stood, ready to leave. He placed his business card on her table with a note: "Thank you for reminding me what matters most." Ethan. Weeks passed. Lily thought about him often but never called him. Maybe he was just being polite. But one snowy afternoon, a black car stopped outside her bakery. Ethan stepped out, holding a box wrapped in red ribbon. "This time," he said with a smile, "I brought the cake." Her eyes widened. "You remembered." "I never forgot," he said softly. "You gave me the best Christmas gift anyone ever could, a reason to come back." That day, Ethan didn't just buy cake, he invested in her bakery, helping her rebuild it into something beautiful. But more than that, he kept coming back, every Christmas a broken bar, until one year, he didn't have to leave, because home wasn't a mansion anymore, it was her. Ending message: sometimes, all a lonely heart needs isn't grand gestures or expensive gifts, just someone to ask, "Can you stay for one night?" Because love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. A broken bar sometimes, it walks in quietly on a snowy Christmas Eve and changes your life forever.